This will be part 1 of the trip Rod and I took through the Skeleton Coast. Our trip began at Henty's Bay. We met the team who would be our companions for the next week or so on the Namib Desert Tracks Skeleton Coast tour. Everyone was on best behavior, and I was concentrating wildly to remember all the new names and faces. We stopped just outside Henty's for a briefing and soon arrived at some salt pools.
What we have here is a hole that's been dug, and the sea is just over there somewhere, and the water that comes up is super saline at about 38% salt, and then they use this water to spray on the surface of the dirt roads, and it makes them really quite hard. These salt crystals are for sale, and what we have is an honesty box, and the salt crystals are pink, I believe, because of the blue-green algae that is present in the water. Obviously the blue-green algae being one of the things that the lesser flamingos eat.
I feel like we're on the set of a Mad Max movie. This otherworldly beast is an abandoned oil rig. Many stories and urban legends abound, but apparently there was not a viable source of oil and the project was scrapped. I was fascinated. I found it similar to a series of Sir Thomas Moore sketches of an elephant skull my mum had taken me to see as a kid. We spent quite some time there exploring the bits of metal crumbling back into the desert. We stopped at Terrace Bay to top up our tanks and have lunch and a leg stretch. This would be the final fill-up for roughly 1,000 kilometers. I didn't know that there was a Namibia Wildlife Resort Park there. It looked really good. The museum at the Moe Bay entrance to the Skeleton Coast National Park was excellent. Such a great variety of exhibits. What most struck me was the whale jawbone outside of reception. It's sad testament to the whaling that took place all along this coast. Although the sun was bright in the sky, because we were so far north, it was later than we thought. It was time to find camp for the night, and hopefully somewhere out of the howling wind. Rod took the first of many spectacular videos of the sun going down over the Namib Desert. Are you making yourself beautiful?
Sunblock.
Sunblock, that's a good idea. Sorry, Gabriel, what was the name of the ship?
Karimona.
We are at the wreck of a ship called the Karimona, that was stranded apparently in about 1971. There isn't a huge amount of documentation. As you can see, it was a wooden ship and it's busy being reclaimed by the ocean. And here we have bits of the engine also being rusted and reclaimed. Little ecosystem working in here.
There is apparently a reason for all this fog. It's the temperature of the ocean, which is the cold Benguela current, that meets the water from more tropical currents coming from the north. This fog is vital to all the desert plants and insects. Apparently the mining companies are not permitted to remove any machinery, so it is allowed to rust away. This tractor was a perfect example of entropy. We visited the Sarusa amethyst mine, which looked like the set of a Star Wars movie. There are still rocks containing gems scattered around, and we spent some time poking around to see what we could see. We stopped for a briefing before we crossed the Cunene River. We were reminded to follow each other as to minimize the number of tracks that are left. This would be a constant refrain from Gabs and Oki. We are privileged, after all, to be allowed into this ecosystem. After our lunch stop at the Hartmann River, we drove through the riverbed, which was good fun and very scenic. Dinner together was a hoot, and we were all very grateful for the fire. It was freck cold, but the food was excellent. Tabasili and Gabriel are really good cooks, and the dinner was one example of what you can do with some good ingredients. Everyone was swapping stories of their various travels in Africa. This cruiser is truly an amazing machine. It just keeps going, never gives us any trouble, goes wherever Rod points it. In quoting from our itinerary for day 3, after breakfast we break camp and explore the Cunene River towards the coastline and the Sarusa Spring, which is an important water point for oryx, springbok, birdlife, brown hyena, and ostrich, today's drive will take us through a few different landscapes in the park. This area is extremely sensitive, and we take special care to leave only one set of tracks behind us. On the way, we visit a seal colony at Cape Fryer. Just north of Angra Fryer, we spend the night. Here we might encounter strong winds that will create lasting memories. There is an abundance of wildlife. Seals and seabirds make their homes on this wild shore. The seals are so very graceful. These beautiful marine mammals are as at home in the ocean as any of our big five are in the bush. As advertised, the winds were particularly strong. In fact, I thought the rooftop tent was going to flap away. I was really glad when the morning came and everybody was still in one piece, although we all looked a little bit more world-weary than we had the day before. Tomorrow is going to be a big day. We will visit the remains of the Dunedin Star and do about 120 kilometers of driving along the beach until we hit the mouth of the Cunene River. Hopefully, there'll be fresh fish for supper. Join us for part 2, where the real fun begins as we learn to drive in the silky dunes.